Welcome into Green Dot Daily, Action Network's daily sports betting show. I'm your host today, Brendan Glasheen. Join us every weekday at noon Eastern, however you found us. Of course, you did just now, but we are also available to you over in the Action app, the Action YouTube page, as well as Action HQ Twitter. It is a happy Friday, and we want to remind you that Green Dot Daily is presented by BetMGM. Use the bonus code ACTION, just ACTION, ACTION, when signing up to get a risk-free bet up to $1,000. Terms and conditions apply. Here's what we got coming up today on the show. It is loaded as we head into the weekend. Reminder, all of the picks from the show are tracked at Green Dot Daily in the Action app. So we have Chris Raybon joining us moments from now to discuss the NFL. Also, Darren Rovell. Are we fading Darren this week, Chris? We'll find out about that. Brandon Anderson will also join us to discuss his favorite picks, not only for the weekend, but also a potential look-ahead line and a look in the futures market. And Sean Zerillo will join us to break down the World Series. Game 1 is tonight between the Phillies and Astros. But starting us off, Stuckey joins us to discuss his college football picks for the upcoming weekend. Stuckey, what's going on? What do you have for us? I think you have a pick for tonight.
Yeah, what's going on, brother? Thanks for having me. For tonight, I'm not getting involved in the FIU game. If you want to watch an empty stadium, tune into that game because I doubt there will be anyone there for that. But the ECU BYU game should be pretty exciting. A lot of people there at that game as well. I like the over here. I think this is going to turn into a shootout. These are two very capable passing offenses with two very capable quarterbacks going against defenses that are vulnerable against the pass. ECU's run defense has been tremendous all season, but BYU can't really run the ball. So I think they come out here, let Jaren Hall sling it around. And the same thing with Holton Ahlers. And the BYU defense has just been so bad. So I think this just turns into back and forth, and we get a really exciting game here. I also would look at the BYU side, whether you could get 3 or better pregame or maybe live. I think this game's going to be back and forth, so there might be a chance to get a better number live or in the second half, because this is a really tough spot for ECU. This is their 9th straight game. They have not had a bye yet. In recent weeks, they played in 4 overtimes, 2 overtimes, and now they're going on the road into altitude on a short week to face BYU. So you could see the legs go in the second half here. It's a non-conference game as well. So maybe the focus isn't there on a short week after a big win over UCF. So I think the spot sets up well for BYU. Their defense has just been so bad. But I think the look here is the over. And then BYU, if you can get 3 or better or look for them live, I think this is an exciting one. Turns into a shootout between Holton Ahlers and Jaren Hall.
Okay, total sitting at 63.5. This total opened at 61. And we are tracking some money right now coming in on the over. So we shall see how that one unfolds tonight. You have a pick for a monster Saturday as well. 3 top 25 matchups on this Saturday. But you're not going to go to one of those games.
No, of course not. I won't make anyone hear some analysis on Charlotte football. But I'm going to go to the SEC. But we're going to go with Missouri on the road. Anything over 3, I think, is fine here. I've played South Carolina their past 2 games, thought they were undervalued against Kentucky and then against Texas A&M last week. They had some injuries on the defensive side of the ball early in the season. But now I think that the opposite's true. I think that ship has sailed. And actually, if you look back, they got to face a backup quarterback at Kentucky, and they actually were outplayed against Texas A&M and got to face a backup quarterback again when the starter got hurt late in the game, driving down 3. Little misleading final score there. This Missouri defense is real, especially against the run. And that's what you need when you go up against South Carolina. South Carolina is a very dynamic rushing attack led by Marshawn Lloyd. Missouri's run defense has been tremendous all season. And I think that they're just undervalued in the market based on some unlucky results. They went on the road and they should have beat Auburn. They miss a chip shot field goal from their very good kicker. And then in overtime, they're running into the end zone to win the game. And the running back drops the ball and it goes through the end zone for a touchback. They go down to Florida and they should have won that game if not for a pick 6. They outplayed Florida statistically. Everyone saw them, go toe-to-toe with Georgia for a long time at home in a very close game. So the offense hasn't been great, but I think they'll be able to get some stuff going on the ground here. And that's South Carolina pretty vulnerable in that department. But I just think the best unit in this game by far is the South Carolina defense, and is the Missouri defense, and they match up very well against South Carolina because they can take away that run game. This one, I like the under too, but I'll happily take the 3.5 here with an undervalued Missouri team.
Okay, money coming in on Missouri, according to the Action app. Also misspoke. The money coming in on the under for BYU and ECU. So Stuckey going the other direction on that. Want to make sure you catch Stuckey and the Big Bets on Campus crew live tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. Eastern. Again, you can find him over the Action app live, also on the Action YouTube, also Action HQ on Twitter. So, Stuckey, you're going to stick around because we're going to welcome in Chris Raybon now to discuss the NFL six-pack, the Sunday six-pack picks. Raybon, what's going on? What do you have for us for this coming weekend in the NFL?
What's up, Brendan? I'm going to start us off with a team that I think is trending up, and that is the Carolina Panthers. We're going to take them +4 here against the Atlanta Falcons. And by the way, this is for first place in the NFC South. So should be a good game all the way around. I don't think the Atlanta Falcons should be favored by even a field goal at this point, because you look at PJ Walker, how are you going to make him look like the backup, turnover prone backup that he is? You're going to have to get pressure. Well, Atlanta is dead last in the league in pressure rate. And they also are without 3/4 of their starting secondary. You have no Casey Hayward, no AJ Terrell, no Jalen Hawkins. So I think this Carolina offense is going to look a lot like it did against a much better Bucs defense the week before. And I think you're going to get a great effort from them because they want Wilkes to get hired as the full-time coach. So, I'm rolling here with the Carolina Panthers, who, by the way, they play better run defense than pass defense, which is always ideal against the Falcons. And they are the best team in the league in terms of efficiency allowed to quarterbacks in the running game, which helps against Mariota. So, people like to fade PJ Walker, but he's 3-1 all time in his career against the spread with 3 outright wins as an underdog. And he's covering by an average of over 20 points a game. So give me PJ, give me the Panthers +4 in Atlanta.
All right. So you're going to a road dog, and they've performed awfully well to this point in the season, 37-26 against the spread. It's been a good year for the underdog altogether in the National Football League. Stuckey, we'll go to you now. What's your one of your picks for the Sunday six-pack?
I mean, I should just pass it back to Raybon. Why waste everyone's time? I think Raybon's like 28-2 over his last 30 NFL picks. Listen to him.
You don't need that love. He knows.
I would look, I'm going to go with the home dog here with the Lions +3.5. I think this is the time to buy the Lions. Early in the season, everyone wanted to buy this team, and now everyone is over them. But why? I mean, they are pretty much who we thought they were, to quote Mr. Green. But their offense has been fine when healthy, right? And they had a couple games, they went to New England. Jared Goff outdoors didn't go well. When they didn't have Amon-Ra St. Brown, DeAndre Swift, both of them are going to be in the game. They are extremely important, especially Amon-Ra St. Brown. Last week, they get blown out against Dallas, but there was a couple things that I liked in that game. Well, number one, Brown goes out with a concussion. Swift didn't play. And they still had a chance to take the lead late in the second half. They fumbled at the 1, and they gave the ball away, I think, 5 times in that game, dead even statistically against Dallas. I liked what some of the young pieces on that defense did. They played Josh Pascal more in the interior, didn't have a lot of stats, but he had a huge impact. Kirby Joseph's playing better. Aiden Hutchinson had his best game as a pro, and they were moving him around. And then Jeff Okudah, remember that name? He had his best game by far as a pro. So I think this defense might be trending up with some of their young pieces that looks like they figured out some things during the bye week. And look, they still have a good offensive line. Jared Goff at home with this offense has been cooking all year. I mean, they put up 45, 35, 38, 36. And now you're going up against a Miami defense that is decimated in the secondary. So I think with Amon-Ra St. Brown back, DeAndre Swift back, they'll be able to put up points. And I know that Miami offense has all the new shiny toys, but in 4 or 5 of 2 starts, they haven't surpassed 21 points. So I think this is a good spot to back Detroit after a couple clunkers, but they'll be as healthy as they've been since early in the season when everyone wanted to back them. And I think that their defense is going to be trending up a little bit here. So I think there's value over a field goal.
It makes you wonder, too, if any of those passes to a through in that second half against Pittsburgh, if those were picked off, it makes you wonder, does Pittsburgh have a sniff in that game? Kenny Pickett also turned the ball over quite a bit. But also, that's a misleading They dominated well, Stuckey, in the first half, but that was not a dominant performance by Miami on Sunday night.
Yeah, there's something still missing from the Dolphins offense. And like I mentioned, their secondary is just decimated with injuries. Yeah. But if you look, like, they miracle win against the Ravens, 1% post-game win expectancy. Really a miracle win against the Bills, right? They were outgained by 300 yards. I mean, it was the Bills dominated that game statistically. And so then you look at it, and all of a sudden, this team could have 2 wins on the season, and it would be a whole different, narrative about the Dolphins. But if you dig a little deeper, the offense isn't humming. There's injuries in the secondary. I think the Lions can pick them off here.
When this line opened at 3 earlier in the week, there were some 3.5s out there. But if you like the Lions, I think the suggestion is to get them now, because the money is coming in on Detroit, and you might not be able to get that extra half point. That could come back down to 3. So that's important to note as the week.
I would assume this has a much, much higher chance of closing at 3 than 4.
Okay, very good. All right, Raybon, back to you. What is your second pick for the Sunday 6-pack of week 8?
Going with the Washington Commanders +3 in Indianapolis. We're essentially getting points for a team that was already ranked dead last in offense, going from its first string quarterback straight to its third string quarterback in its first start. And he's a day 3 pick. So I'm taking those points all day. Washington is a top 5 run defense. Obviously, the Colts game plan will be run heavy. Everyone talks about the mobility for Sam Ehlinger, but this is a guy that just holds the ball a lot. I mean, in the preseason, he averaged 3.25 seconds per throw, and that would be longer than anyone but Justin Fields. And we saw how, that offense is operating most of the time in Chicago. So I don't think he can replicate his preseason performance. I think the mobility is going to be the upgrade is going to be minimal, because he's not going to be able to throw the ball as much. Matt Ryan, in their win, still averaged 287 yards passing. In their last win, he completed 42 throws. So I think this is going to be tough for the Washington offense. I mean, for the Indianapolis offense against Washington. And on the other side, this Indianapolis defense, it's not great against short passes. That's what Heineke was doing most of last week, and he's been targeting McLaurin a lot better than Carson Wentz has. So I don't think Washington has to do too much in this spot. And I think this is a Jim Irsay decision, not a Frank Reich decision, to put in Ehlinger, kind of like a fan who's, always clamoring for the backup when the team is struggling. And I think this is not going to go well. And Taylor Heineke, since last November, 7-2 against the spread. And one of those losses was by a half point. So give me the Commanders on the road +3.
I guess we should commend Irsay for going to a quarterback who isn't ancient and perhaps ready to fall down and totally hurt themselves or possibly have their career end. But yes, another road dog that you both are on, or at least Chris is on. Stuckey, give us your second pick for week 8.
Yeah, let's go with another dog with another road dog with a more attractive quarterback. What have we gone? PJ Walker, Jared Goff, and Tyler Heineke. We're going to go with Arizona +3.5 at Minnesota here. This is one thing I really like about this bet is I think it's going to cash. And if it doesn't, I can blame the fact that Call of Duty came out yesterday, the full release, someone was telling me, for Kyler Murray. But this is when you want to back the Cardinals. On the road as an underdog, Cliff Kingsbury 15-3-2 against the spread. He's won 8 straight outright as a road underdog. For whatever reason, I don't know if they're just not organized, distracted at home. They've always performed better on the road. More importantly, DeAndre Hopkins is back. He had 10 catches over 100 yards. This is a completely different offense when he's in there. If you look back historically, games with Hopkins and without, they're averaging almost 10 points per game more with Hopkins. Kyler Murray is just a completely different quarterback when he's in the lineup. I also think the Arizona defense is a bit undervalued in the market. If you look for the full season, they're about 20th in EPA per play. But a lot of that was driven by week 1 when they were absolutely lambasted by the Chiefs. When they were missing, I think 5, or they were missing basically their entire secondary wide. They were crushed, and I expected it, and so did many others. If you remove that game from week 2 on, they're actually 9th in EPA per play. And it's actually the Vikings that are sitting around 18th, 19th. And look, this Vikings team, they've won 4 straight to get to 5-1. They are coming off a bye, but that advantage isn't as great because Arizona is good on the road, and they're coming off of a mini bye. They played on Thursday night. And Kirk Cousins, for what it's worth, small sample size, hasn't been great off of a bye historically. But I just think that this Vikings team is sort of a paper tiger. You look at the 4 wins that they've had. They played Detroit at home, should have lost that game. They need 2 late touchdowns, a bad Campbell decision, and they pull that game out at home. Then, they play the Saints in London. They win that game by a field goal against a backup quarterback. They play the Dolphins, 3rd string, then backup. They get dominated in that game. I mean, they allowed over 2 yards per play more, 200 more yards, but the Dolphins had 3 turnovers, 100 penalty yards, another backup quarterback, another 1 possession win. And then they beat the Bears at home by 1 possession. And the Bears offense actually looked fairly competent. So these are 4 1 possession wins when they were statistically outplayed in almost all of them. And they benefited from playing a number of backups. So I don't think this Vikings team has holes on both sides of the ball. And I think the Cardinals are still a bit undervalued. And this is a spot where they have historically cashed. So give me Arizona, anything over a field goal here.
Kyler Murray is the 2nd best quarterback in the NFL against the spread as an underdog. He has the 2nd best ATS clip at 19-10-2 against the number, only behind Jimmy Garoppolo since 2019. I'm sensing a theme here. Road dogs, of course, but we don't think the NFC is that good. That's what I'm gathering, Raybon.
I mean, look at the records. Only my Giants and the Eagles are balling out, and I guess you could put the Seahawks in that category.
Okay, all right. Well,
Raiders win. Raiders and Panthers win tomorrow. Panthers solo 1st place in the division 2 weeks after trading their franchise player and firing their coach.
Unreal. Matt Rule will watch from his couch and sob if that is the case.
I think he'll be fine with this, the millions that he got, but yeah.
This is true. Yeah, that's fair. Find the rest of Stuckey and Raybon's picks on the NFL Week 8 betting preview episode via the Action Network podcast. Fellas, thanks so much for stopping by. As for how Week 8 started last night, Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they lost their 3rd straight game, 27-22 to the Baltimore Ravens. Off the field, news breaking this morning before Green Dot Daily got started, Tom Brady, via his Instagram story, announced he and his wife, Gisele Bündchen, have finalized their divorce from one another after 13 years of marriage. Joining us now on the show, Darren Rovell. Darren's clearly been a challenging time for Brady, and he is the GOAT, as we know, but it has not been GOAT times for Tom. Let's dive in, though, to the on-the-field component. This is pretty wild territory that Brady has entered, given this recent streak on the field.
Yeah, Brendan, sometimes you're doing your stats and you're thinking, okay, so he hasn't lost 3 straight in 20 years. They actually lost 4 straight, the Patriots, in 2002, but the last of that string was actually October 27th, 2002, which is exactly 20 years ago yesterday. So pretty wild. The number 2 song in the country was A Moment Like This. Some people wait a lifetime. So wow. That's a lot. I mean, we're talking about what, like American Idol 1 with Kelly Clarkson and Justin Guarini. Long time. That is one piece of data. And then the other one is it was the day that the Anaheim Angels beat the San Francisco Giants in the World Series. So to win 4-3 in Game 7. Very, very long time in this territory. And yet at 3-5, seems like they can still make the playoffs and get there. But it is very interesting to see what territory we're in with Brady right now.
Well, some thoughts. Your singing voice, marvelous, great work.
I actually made it worse because it's uncomfortable with how good I am. Oh. So, yeah.
Very good. Well, we just talked about Carolina. If they get there this weekend, that complicates things for Tampa. That's another takeaway from what you just said as well. And the Anaheim Angels, they've had no problem losing 3 games in a row. Plenty since the World Series.
That is true. That is true. And I actually did well. I faded Brady, unlike all the sharps yesterday, and came out with some nice money. Check out my picks on the Action Network.
Well, speaking of that, we're going to find out if we're fading you in Week 8. Not me, but Chris Raybon's going to come back now. And Darren, we do hear that once again, you have a pick for the weekend. Raybon, you look forward to this bit every week. And I can just tell you're You're all saddled up. You're strapped in, ready to go to react. Darren, give it to us. What is your NFL Week 8
so
pick of the weekend?
I missed very badly this last week. It was the worst miss ever. I complicated things by saying, definitely going over in Panthers, Buccaneers. And, I did come back, and sometimes when you get live betting, you take it. And I was able to perfectly middle and under and over.
All right, I'm fading this. Like what's this explanation of last week's picks? He asked you for this week's pick, and you're qualifying your loss in last week's pick. I'm fading your intro to the pick. I don't even like it. Give me the
Chris,
pick.
We have to tell people about last week. Yeah, I'm just telling you about.
You picked Panthers over, you lost. What's the pick?
Well, and he's being fair because he mentioned how he faded the Bucs last night.
Right.
His over pick last week was showing he had some belief in them to score, but they didn't.
Okay.
So that's
here we go. This might be clouded by the fact that the number one player I hate in the NFL is Aaron Rodgers. Just hate him. I hope many teams immunize him. Anyway, I am going Bills. It's now gone to 11.5. I am going to take it further. I like the alt line of minus 12.5. Why not? As long as I get to the 13, I'm fine. Bills minus 12.5 against the Packers.
Okay. You know what? I wasn't even going to fully
fade 100,
you.
Plus 100.
I wasn't even going to fully fade you because I think people are kind of overrating the Packers' chances just because of the name of Aaron Rodgers, big underdog, never happened. But why are you taking an extra half point? Like, just be happy with your 11. That's a touchdown and a field goal. It could be a low-scoring game. Ron Torbert calling all these penalties. Just take the 11. Why are you going with this extra half point?
I know,
what is that?
Because I'm taunting Aaron Rodgers.
It's not even like you're taking like, okay, I want them to win by an extra score. Like, you can't even score a 1.5 points in football. Like, what is that? What are you expecting to get an extra safety?
It's an under the next key number. That's my square thinking. It's under the next key number.
It's under something. It's under something.
I might as well get the plus side of it.
All right.
Are you fading it or not? You still haven't answered it.
I'm fading. Yeah, I'm fading the 12.5. Just take the original line and be happy with it. What's that? You're betting on an extra safety. I got it. The
Bills are going to win by 12. I got it. They'll win by 12. You're right.
Yeah. There you go. Well, I can't fade that.
Do you two do this every week? Is this how this goes?
Yes.
We're only at week 8. We still have a whole half a season to go. Raybon, save some of that energy, man. You're going to lose yourself.
I'm just here so I don't get fined.
Okay, very good. Yeah, over at BetMGM, the spread is 11. And the money's coming in on Green Bay.
And
Road dog.
I think the Packers are who we thought they were.
All right, gentlemen. Thanks so much. Chris Raybon, Darren Rovell, thanks for stopping by.
Thanks for having me.
The best way to play them now at this point is their World Series odds, in my opinion. If the Phillies are able to make it to October, they can definitely make a run, especially if their offense gets hot. I think given the 3-game wildcard series, the pitching structure that they have with Wheeler and Nola, I like all the pieces that they have as a floor. That kind of floor of like 84, 85 wins seems pretty solid. And if they get to October, I think they can make a run. So in terms of like my favorite mid-range, long shot World Series value play, it's absolutely the Phillies.
The 118th World Series begins tonight, and that was a long time ago in early April when Sean Zerillo joined our action programming and gave out Phillies World Series. Again, that was April 5th, so he's sitting on that. He also gave out Phils at plus 2,000 to win the NL pennant, one of his best bets before the playoffs. Zerillo joins us now. Game 1 is here, Sean. Great to have you. Look, I'm happy for you. I really am. But the folks want to find out now, if they didn't get involved, how can they bet game 1 of the World Series? What's your first pick for us in game 1 that starts tonight?
Yeah, in terms of game 1 specifically, I prefer the first 5 innings money line. Justin Verlander's underlying metrics this season were about a run higher than his actual ERA. Set the record, or didn't set a record, but had the lowest ERA since Pedro Martinez in 2000 this year. And while he was about a half run or a run higher than his underlying metrics in terms of beating those underlying metrics, Aaron Nola was about a half run below his underlying indicators. So comparable expected ERA for these two pitchers, 2.66, 2.74 in terms of an expected ERA. but Nola was the more efficient starter, more called strikes, more swinging strikes, got into better counts more consistently. Justin Verlander, over the course of his career, really good at denying opposing teams luck relative to other luck categories that you would quantify for other pitchers. Batting average on balls in play, home run to fly ball rate, strand rate. Verlander typically better than league average in all three of those categories, but this year he took it to an even new extreme in all three categories. Outliers compared to his career numbers, which is why he was able to achieve that record-setting ERA. So both teams offensively in their lesser split here, both excel against lefties as opposed to righties. I do see a lower scoring game, probably a pitcher's duel. But of the two offenses, I prefer Phillies offense against right-handed pitching. Houston down the stretch, very right-handed heavy offense. After the trade deadline, they were actually right around league average against right-handed pitching. Philly a few percentage points above. The bullpen, the defense, those point to Houston as well. Over the course of a full game, that's going to have a bigger impact, obviously, than it would for the first 5 innings. So I like the Phillies' first 5 money line here down to plus 134, plus 127, I should say plus 127 for the first 5 line. Plus 134 would be my full game target. I'll have a smaller bet there than I would have for the first 5 innings, where I like both the money line, as I said, to plus 127, and then that first 5 spread for the Phillies as well, plus the half a run up to minus 128. So more on the first 5 innings. If you want some action on top of the full game money line, there's some props you could bet on the Phillies for the series. Them to win exactly 4-2 at about plus 700. They're plus 1.5 games at minus 135, and they're minus 1.5 games at plus 270. We went over that on the Payoff Pitch podcast. Have that covered in my Action Network series futures preview as well. So a variety of ways to bet the Phillies. Like their first 5 money line in game 1 is my best bet. Also like their full game money line. But then on top of that, you can play their series price as well. There's some plus 200s out there. I like that down to about plus 160.
Yeah, like any playoff series in any sport, especially a finals, game 1 is a real tone setter. And right now, plus 130, the first 5 money line for the Phillies. Astros at minus 155. Just a quick follow-up. So do you get the sense that folks might bet this game if they're a casual baseball bettor and just see the name recognition? Like Nola's a big name, but not as big as Verlander. It feels like Verlander's getting just a lot more hype because of he's Justin Verlander.
Yeah, I don't think that people realize, they see the ERA for Nola this year. They see the ERA for Verlander this year and see a 1.5 apart between them. And they may not realize that the underlying metrics for the two pitchers are actually very similar. And as I mentioned with the called strikes, the swinging strikes, if anything, I would actually take Verlander, or I would take Nola in a vacuum. Right. So, Verlander has a pretty miserable record when it comes to his playoff history, his World Series history, particularly. I believe he's 0-5 in the World Series, but I don't really factor that in whatsoever. I'm just handicapping them, how they performed this year, how they performed of late. Another thing you could add on to the Nola side of the equation, his velocity ticked up at the end of the season and then into the playoffs. He was sitting about a mile and a half higher in these playoffs than he was during the regular season. So certainly trending in the right direction is Nola. Verlander, just to confirm, 0-6 historically in the World Series.
So you have a second pick for us for game 1, which again is tonight, Phillies Astros in Houston. You're going to look to the total.
Yeah, I'm taking the under 6.5 here. I projected it at 6.3. Minute Maid Park, typically with the roof closed, plays as a bit of a pitcher's park, about 4 or 5% below your league average run environment. I know we have 2 good offenses here, 2 of the better lineups in baseball. But as I mentioned, both are in their lesser split and are going to be closer to league average against right-handed pitchers. You have 2 of them on the mound tonight. On top of that, pitcher-friendly umpire in James Hoy, 52.2% career to the under for Hoy, and a bigger strike zone relative to the average umpire. More called strikes, more strikeouts for the pitchers on the mound. So look at those over on the pitcher strikeout props. Look for a low-scoring game. I like the under 6.5. Tough to bet that with 2 high offense teams in a series, because once you get to 3-3, you lose that bet. But I do think the under is the right side for game 1.
Okay, money is coming in on the under. The Action app still has the total sitting at 7 over at BetMGM, 6.5 at plus 100. What if it gets to 6? Just let's play it out. If it gets to 6, are you staying away? How would you feel about 6?
I need plus money on an over 6 probably, or around there, in order to bet an over 6. The difference between the 7 and the 6.5 versus the 6. There's, the 6.5, 6, you need the odd number as your key number. So that's why you see some of these books pushing it up to a 7 and juicing it to the under. Just want that push protection there. I would not bet a 7 past -116 on an under. The 6.5 at plus money, especially that plus 105 out there, way better than a juice 7. So that 6.5, as I said, you could take to about plus 102. The 7, though, I wouldn't bet past about -116.
All right, Zerillo, good stuff. We'll catch you next week on Payoff Pitch. And also you can find Zerillo's picks for the World Series and all baseball season. We're looking ahead to next year, possibly too. Anytime that Zerillo's in the app, he's got you covered for the World Series. Thanks a lot, man.
Go Phillies.
Let's go. He's got that big number. He's looking forward to this one. So let's head back to the NFL and one of the talks of the town at this point in the season. We're at week 8, of course, midway point. How about some award winners? These are the latest Rookie of the Year odds. And over on the offensive side, you got an emerging running back, 2 emerging running backs in Walker and Pierce of Seattle and Houston, respectively. Chris Olave of New Orleans, he's emerged as a number 1 with Michael Thomas out. And over on the other side, defensive Rookie of the Year. This is interesting. Aiden Hutchinson was the favorite coming into the season, and now 4 digits at plus 1,000 to win this award. Let's welcome in Brandon Anderson. He covers the NFL for Action Network as we look ahead to week 8. We're almost, Brandon, at the midway point of the season. Not quite, but we've kind of started to figure out like who's in this thing, who isn't, who we feel good about, but we still want to find the absolute max value out on the market. So you've got a future for us. And I it's in the past, this would be like, okay, like this guy must be a fan of this team, but you actually have an argument about a team that's got a pretty big number to win the Super Bowl.
I do. I am I'm going with America's team here, the Dallas Cowboys. Like you said, we don't get a lot of value on Dallas, but I think there is value right now. I'll take a 20-1 ticket on the Cowboys to win the Super Bowl. And I think right now the NFC is clearly where you want your sleeper from, because the AFC is loaded. We got the Bills, we got the Chiefs, there's Bengals, Ravens, all sorts of teams over there. In the NFC, it's like, okay, the Eagles are good, and the Vikings and Giants, they only lost once, so they must be good. And the Packers and Rams and Buccaneers, they're good still, right? Are they good? They're definitely good. So you want a team in the NFC, and I think the Cowboys are that team. To me, they're clearly the second best team in the NFC. And if you look at playoff football versus a regular season, I think you can make a case that they might actually be the best team in the NFC, maybe ahead of the Eagles. We saw how they kind of caught up defensively to what the Eagles were doing in offense in the second half of that game. Football Outsiders has the Cowboys 17.3% to make the Super Bowl. That's the 4th best odds on the board. That's only behind Buffalo, Philly, and Kansas City. And you get to the Super Bowl with the 20-1 ticket. We're going to have a lot of options, even getting close there. So I think this is a great spot to buy in on Dallas. This is a really talented team. And without that quarterback for so long, get out of here, Cooper Rush. We've got a little value here.
I love the exaggerated by the way. That's truly what fans do, like going through who they think is any good in this conference. And it's fair. You have to really go, oh, right, those teams too. Yeah, so that was good. Yeah. Well done. Let's move to the award market. And we did a preseason episode on this over on the Action Network podcast. And the guy that we felt was unquestionably deserving of being the favorite, you found value in this particular player and award.
I am. I'm going back to Aiden Hutchinson on the Lions. Billie Jean Singer, if you remember Hard Knocks from before the season. So Hutchinson, I think, is really coming around here. I think there's still value. I'm seeing plus 1,600, as short as 700 at some books. So make sure you get the best line out there. He's got 4.5 sacks. So he's on pace for almost 13 for the season. If you look at PFF grades, he's 78 and 80 these last 2 games. This is his best 2 games. So you have the number 2 pick who's getting better, who's peaking as he gets into the season here. Those grades would have him as a top 25 edge rusher. And then schedule. This week, Miami, 2 weeks from now, Chicago. Those are 2 of the worst pass blocking teams in the NFL. I did before the season, Brendan, when you and I talked about it. I have my 4 rules for how do we pick a defensive rookie of the year. So just real quick, we want the favorite. 7 of our last 10 winners were 900 plus 900 or shorter to start the year. Hutchinson was the favorite coming in. We want sacks. 6 of our last 8 winners had 7 or more sacks. Hutchinson's almost there already. We don't care if we win. 7 of our 12 last winners under 500. So doesn't matter. The Lions stink. We just need a good player. And most importantly here, draft position is key. Every rookie of the year on defense this century, top 39 pick, 18 of 22, top 15 pick. Since 2010, top 3 pick 5 times already. Hutchinson was second. You look at the board here. Sauce Gardner, he's the exciting favorite right now. But what happens when the Jets stop winning and aren't suddenly 5-2? The next guys, Tariq Woolen, Jack Jones, these are really good players. Have you ever heard of them before the season? Like, do we even know what teams these guys are? By the way, Tariq Woolen, Seattle, Jack Jones, New England, really good, important players. We give name recognition on Defensive Rookie of the Year. Aiden Hutchinson has the name. He's got a great price now. I think he's going to get some sacks soon, so it's a great time to buy in on him at 1,600.
Well, and you're a little take cornered on this, and this will transition into our next pick because you like a certain team. But hold on a second. If you're going to get on Sauce Gardner's team, if they stop winning, well, Tariq Woolen's team's winning too. And if they stop winning, which is possible, that would also help your Aiden Hutchinson case. But I only bring that up because we are going back to the island, and you have a pick not for week 8, but you have a look ahead spot for week 9.
I do. We're going back to Seattle Island. We've built a condo on the island. We've set up shop here. I think this is our third or fourth Friday in a row looking out on Seattle Island. Seattle is plus 3.5 in Arizona. The Seahawks just played the Cardinals 3 weeks ago, and they dominated them. It was only 19-9, but Arizona only scored 3 points of offense against Seahawks defense that we all thought was terrible. Well, guess what? They're the number 1 defense the last 2 weeks. Seahawks, they're top 8 over the last month in rushing defense and passing defense and rushing and passing offense. They're the only team in the NFL that is top 8 in all 4 of those things. Seattle is good, man. Seattle Island is a real thing, and they keep winning, and they keep getting us closing line value, almost a field goal the last couple weeks in a row. And you want the 3.5 here too, because like you said, coming to this weekend, Seattle is home and favored. Arizona is an underdog on the road. So if those results hold as expected, we probably lose the key number here. We slip under the 3.5. Seattle Island, it's getting crowded. There's still some room. We got a few vacancies down on the end. You're going to have to, walk down to the end of the block a little bit, but there's a little room out here on Seattle Island. I see you got your Seattle Island shirt on, Brandon. Right. We're ready to go for this one.
Brandon Anderson, you can always find him on Green.Daily. You can find him in the Action app. But if you can't find him, he will be on the Warriors third quarter private jet, taking himself home, like he says, with Warriors third quarter, and he takes himself home to Seattle Island.
That's right.
Seattle Island condo. That's where you can find Brandon Anderson these days. Thanks so much for stopping by Green.Daily, and good luck, Island guy.
Thanks.
Brandon, I love you, man, but the Island shirt is just for you. And then I got to get back to business cash for the show. We enjoy having Brandon on. And as a reminder, you can find all of our picks from the show, Green.Daily, by following the account over in the Action Network app at Green.Daily. Very simple. You can see our picks from our Monday through Friday shows. As a reminder, we have a big weekend here coming up at Action Network. We have plenty of shows to get you set for college football and NFL action. Big Bets on Campus goes live Saturday at 10:30 a.m. Eastern, so be sure to set your alarms for tomorrow. And then Sunday, we've got the Power Hour, starting with Convince Me at 11, and then don't go anywhere right after Convince Me, the Touchdown Show with Jill Gallant. Always good stuff there to find some value on who is going to score a touchdown in the NFL. That Power Hour is again on Sunday, starting at 11 a.m. Eastern. Green.Daily, presented by BetMGM. Again, the reminder, if you head over to BetMGM, use the bonus code ACTION when signing up to get a risk-free bet up to $1,000. Terms and conditions apply. Thanks so much to all of our guests who joined us today, everyone behind the scenes. For everybody, Brendan Glasheen signing off. You all have a great weekend. Best of luck. Get those green dots, and we will see you all again on Monday.